Sigurd is one of the most tragic characters in all of Fire Emblem. Arguably the most tragic character in the series, and I'm not just talking about him from his game itself. He's become the butt of countless jokes due to his fiery demise. And I'm not going to act like I'm not responsible for this in some way. I have made plenty of barbecue jokes in the past, and I will do so in the future. I will never stop being unfunny. But there's a lot more to Sigurd than just his death, and I want to take today to show the fantastic character of Sigurd Baldos Chalfi, the first in a trio of impeccable U-Draw lords. So come on in and hear a tale that's cloaked in both tragedy and glory. And don't forget to leave a like on the video and comment, because if you don't, YouTube will take me out back behind the Waffle House and shoot me to death with a 9-iron. I think that's a golf club. Fuck.
There is no meme. This is just a threat.
In the game's prologue, the big bad Axe Kingdom of Verdane invades Sigurd's neighboring territory of Youngby and kidnaps his childhood friend, Princess Ideen. Sigurd decides he isn't gonna wait for the Axe Bandits to come to him, and he goes off with the knights of his territory, Chalfi, to attack them and take Youngby back for its people. His introduction scene is kind of like a PowerPoint presentation of his good points. He's brave and kind, ready to jump into danger without a moment's notice if it means he's doing the right thing. He's also willing to listen to those around him, like his knights Alec, Noish, and Arden. He isn't so prideful that he doesn't take advice when he might be wrong in his approach. It's a solid introduction that gives the player everything they need to know about Sigurd, and it's all done with just a small amount of dialogue that gets the point across quickly. Which is kind of the thing that Fire Emblem 4 does better than most games of this nature. It gets characters' personalities and motives across very efficiently. Sigurd really only has one conversation with his sister Ethlyn, but you can very easily understand their dynamic of bickering but loving siblings. Through his conversations between Lex and Azel, you can see how he's always thinking of other people's feelings. He shows concern over them and their motives for being there. Would I like it if Sigurd had proper supports like later titles? Without a doubt, but FE4 is very good at getting a lot with a little, and I think that's worth mentioning. The only thing I would critique is that it doesn't have enough silly or light-hearted moments. The only real comedic one is his interaction with Sylvia wearing on his patience. Other than that, Sigurd is all business, which is perfectly fine for the narrative and probably more fitting, but I've always found that I like when characters have those moments of brevity in between the serious moments, and Sigurd lacks that, though this critique is more a nitpick and probably just a me thing. You know what though, I'm actually going to take back my statement that Sigurd doesn't have enough silly. He does have silly. It's just all concentrated in his bonkers unit performance. His bases are very good, letting him handle pretty much everything on the first map on his own without much fear of retaliation from anything. His growths are also absurdly good, and they leave him with no real weakness. So not only does he start strong, he stays strong throughout his entire journey. He's also mounted in a game with notoriously large maps, so he can zoom around anywhere and position himself perfectly once he actually does something. He's just incredible. Sigurd is the best unit in FE history, no doubt. Men like Seth and Har come close, but no one will ever be as powerful and as useful as Sigurd, which actually plays into the story of the game, believe it or not. But that will come into play later. For right now, Sigurd's aggression is awarded by the King of Granvale, the country that Sigurd's territory is ruled by, and they give him permission to go all the way and invade Verdane, to take back Ideen and put an end to Verdane's aggression. Now, this is actually way more of a problem than it sounds, but the game doesn't really dwell on the implications of invading a foreign nation. For now, Sigurd goes in and saves not only Ideen, but a boy named Prince Shannon. Shannon is the Prince of Isaac, a country Granvale is at war with. In fact, Sigurd's father is out fighting them right during Chapter 1, and he's fighting alongside Granvale's Prince Kurth, so Shannon could be a great hostage. But Sigurd refuses to hold any ill will to the boy. He acknowledges Shannon as an innocent and makes sure to keep him out of harm's way until he can safely be returned home. It's a nice scene that again shows Sigurd's kindness and empathy, as he's not going to use what could easily be a war ender that was just served to him on a silver platter. The last person he rescues in Verdane is a woman named Deirdre, who's being harassed by some local thug in one of Verdane's castle towns. She had met Ideen during her imprisonment, and from Ideen talking about Sigurd, Deirdre fell in love with a man she had never met, and now that she has met him, she's fallen deeper in love still. A local elder warns Sigurd that Deirdre can never have sex with men because of some kind of ancient prophecy, and Sigurd completely disregards him, thinking with the head in his pants and not with the head on his shoulders. He and Deirdre get married after the second conversation they ever have, which occurs later in the chapter. And if that seems really fast and kind of poorly done, it's because it very much is. Developer interviews have gone on record saying that they had to cut scenes showing Sigurd and Deirdre's romance due to time constraints, which, I'm gonna have to be honest, does not make a lick of sense. Now, I am not Shozo Kaga, I am not insane enough to design Vestaria Saga, but I would think that the main romance of your main character is kind of really important and one of the scenes that should stay, but what the hell do I know? But this is where supplementary material really comes into play. Fire Emblem Heroes, the FE4 manga, even FE Cypher carries the load that FE4 itself didn't. The manga has a ton of scenes between the two of them. Serious scenes, comical scenes, romantic scenes. They feel much more fleshed out like a main couple should there. And the way they talk about each other in FE Heroes makes it clear that Sigurd is a wife guy and Deirdre is a husband girl. They would do anything for each other and their lines are just adorable. And look at this cipher card and tell me your heart doesn't melt. Just look at it! The supplementary material does its job and takes what I think is a pretty boring romance and turns it into something really endearing, and I think that should be mentioned when talking about Sigurd. Back to Sigurd and the plot though, he's bearing witness to Augustria, a neighboring country, enter a civil war. Its king is assassinated, Sigurd's friend Eldigan is taken away because he's a lord who's a good person, and the new King Jagal doesn't like that, and Eldigan's younger sister is under attack by a man trying to force himself on her. With Jagal threatening to invade Verdane due to Granvale's occupation of a foreign nation sitting poorly with the Augustrian elite, Sigurd is once again launching a military campaign into a foreign nation. And it's the second time this happens. The game finally starts to remind us that Sigurd isn't just taking leisurely strolls whenever he does this. He is waging war, and that's a problem. War is, in case you don't know, violent and horrible. The people of the countries he invades suffer every time Sigurd does this, and a man named Lewin points that out to him. And when he reunited with Eldigan, Eldigan berates him for annexing half his goddamn country. Both of these men make Sigurd face the fact that he's imperializing foreign people. Regardless of if he had good reasons, people are dying every time he does this. And when faced with this accusation, Sigurd really just goes, fair enough, and tries to make the situation better. This does show that Sigurd is willing to acknowledge his failures, which is good, but it is a fact that he is too aggressive and too prone to violence. Despite his noble intentions, people suffer. But it is important to remember those intentions, as the merit to them will shine through eventually. Unfortunately for Sigurd, those noble intentions aren't shining through anytime soon, as Chapter 3 is when everything starts going horribly wrong for Sigurd. First, he has to kill Eldigan, one of his oldest and best friends, a result of Sigurd's reign over Augustria and the foreign intervention he had forced on them there. Then, his wife is kidnapped by the evil Dark Mage Manfroy, and he has no idea where she is or how to even start trying to find her. And finally, his own father is framed for the murder of the Prince of Granvale, and Sigurd himself is called a traitor by the Granvale court not very long after. So he has to take his infant son Seliph away to the country of Silice, where he's forced to hide away for a year while all of Granvale want him dead. It's fairly typical for stories to have a moment where everything goes wrong for the hero, but so much shit goes wrong for Sigurd all at once that it makes it very easy to sympathize with him. Chapter 4 takes its time to flesh out other characters more so than Sigurd. Not that Sigurd and Rana's relationship isn't interesting, but I already made an entire video on Rana that goes into that. I don't really know what to talk about here, other than the fact that you should be giving me your hard-earned money. That's right, I have a Patreon, where for as little as $3 a month, you can help support the channel and get benefits on upcoming videos, like getting your name written and said aloud on episodes, and for $7 a month, you can choose to vote in polls to decide future episodes. Right now, it's a battle of axe units, and I'm gonna be honest, it looks like the next episode is just gonna be on Garcia. But hey, maybe you can make your voice heard and change that. My patrons include the likes of Adebayo Thompson, Andrew Crockett, Benziken, Dr. McBackstab, Fire Emblem Lord, Great Riek, Hell on Heelys, Ichigo D. Camus, Jaeger Guts, Kenpachi Shira, Uzumaki Kiri, Mato, Kratos, Caranzel, Frederick Sirius, Balsara Hakuman, The White Void, Despacito 2, Lycephaline Vault, Morga Lorgan, Nevrix the Tourmaline Project creator, Shen Lu, Jesus Christ, that's the first time I've ever fucked his name up like that. Percival Frederickstein, Von Musoklowski, Darello III, but you can call me Percy, Steph D, Tato, the world's most unironic 8.5 tail stand, Walmart Greeter, Your Girl Owen, Alexis Ovea, Brentendo 11, Drew Hack, Ginger, Gugu Gaga, Cornelia Milkers 92, and Upscale Furry Trash. Thank you all for your continued support, and let's get back to Sigurd's suffering. Getting back to Sigurd, his final chapter starts with the uplifting moment of his dad dying a cruel death. You know, typical for people with blue hair and pronouns. Now, while the parents of lords being dead is common, that doesn't mean this isn't a gut punch, because this is when the suffering just goes all the way for Sigurd. As I said during Chapter 3, protagonists having everything go wrong is typical in stories, because it creates the odds that they need to overcome. But Sigurd isn't overcoming shit. It's just a non-stop cavalcade of misfortune that continues to make you feel for him. Because surely, when he overthrows the horrors, it'll be a triumphant moment, right? Well, if your definition of a triumphant moment is having your sister and best friend die and then you get executed, you are fucked in the head. But also correct. Sigurd, after coming as far as he did, loses. There is no plot armor ass pool, he falls victim to Arvist and Manfroy's machinations and loses his life. And that is just after he learns that his wife has been tricked into being with the man who's killing him in the first place. This is a scene that almost anyone knows by now, but I don't think that should diminish how fucking raw of a plot twist Sigurd's death is. There are a few games here and there where the main character dies. Halo Reach is probably the most famous example, and it can be a very powerful storytelling tool when used correctly. Sigurd's death is kind of like the twists to games like Undertale or Doki Doki Literature Club. While everyone and their mother knows about them by now, it doesn't diminish how effective they are. Sigurd's tragic downfall reads like a Greek tragedy. It's brought in part by his own failures, and in part by the wickedness of the world around him. At every point, Sigurd's genuinely good intentions were met with pain and scorn, and it all ends with him losing everything he loved and stood for. So, what is FE4 saying? That doing the right thing is stupid and will be punished? No, not at all. Because despite how it ended, no good deed goes unpunished. Sigurd's kindness did genuinely lead to good things, even if he never saw them. There's the obvious fact that Seliph was the one who raised an army and saved all of Yggdrasil from the evil machinations of Manfor and Julius, and Seliph couldn't exist without Sigurd. But Seliph was harbored in Isaac and was raised by Ideen, and Ideen could only raise them because Sigurd acted out and saved her when she needed him. And Isaac only harbored them because Sigurd saved Shannon and showed him kindness when it was really in his best interest to show him cruelty. The people of the world rallied behind Seliph because he was the son of their hero, who they eventually turned into a legend after Sigurd's death, realizing they had been tricked by Arvis's propaganda. At every step, Sigurd's kindness did lead to something. The story of Sigurd is one about being true to kindness even when the world meets you with cruelty. And Sigurd's impact plays a major role in Seliph's tale. I already did a video on Seliph too, but to sum it up, Sigurd's shadow hangs over his son the entire second generation. Seliph feels his might doesn't match up to his dad's, which is why Sigurd's dominant unit performance is so important. The player can feel Seliph's struggle because they felt the power he's comparing himself to. Seliph worries that he cannot match his father's leadership and unwavering bravery. All of Sigurd's positive traits weigh on Seliph like a chain around his neck, and that's part of what makes Seliph a very engaging character. Sigurd not only has a great character himself, but he also serves to make Seliph a very relatable character too. He's how you do a death right, and I really think that's worth mentioning, more so than just the death in and of itself. Then there's Sigurd's final scene, where he and Deirdre appear as a ghost because people can just do that in Yggdrasil, don't think about it too hard. Sigurd warns Seliph to not fall into the same trap he did. He tells Seliph to remember the common man, and do not be blinded to their plight in his conquest to defeat Lopter. And that's really what Sigurd's tale is all about. The ability to move forward in the face of calamity. Because you have faith that your good deeds will one day have an impact to change the world. A hero is a man who plants a tree, knowing he will never sit under its shade. It's a reminder that Sigurd's tale makes sure you won't forget. I would like to thank you all for once again making it to the end of another character analysis video. I've now covered all the Yggdrasil lords, all 3 of them. There is now an emptiness in my soul that I cannot replace. As always, I would like to thank my buddy Guy for looking over the script, making sure that nothing's too crazy, and that I'm on the right track to deliver another banger. Thank you very much, buddy. I always appreciate it. If you enjoy the video, please consider not only liking, commenting, and subscribing, but also to join my Discord server. I have a lot of fun there, I talk in there pretty frequently, though mostly I just tell everyone when the Baltimore Orioles win a baseball game, and you're looking at some people talking in it right now. Consider joining, the link is always in the description. Until next time.